Biodiversity is the variability among living organisms from all sources. This includes terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems. This also includes diversity within species and ecosystems. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jennifer Susas. Before we go on to our discussion, let me first introduce our objectives for today. First, to give the concept of biodiversity, to distinguish the impact of biodiversity, and lastly, to determine the relevance of biodiversity on human lives. At this point, let me show you our collage entitled The Habitat with the theme, The Living Gives Life. Biodiversity supports human and societal needs, including food and nutrition security, energy, development of medicines and pharmaceutical and fresh water, which together underpin good health. It also supports economic opportunity and leisure activities that contributes to overall well-being. But not all effects are beautifully caused because some of the effects are also harmful. Humans affect biodiversity by their populations, numbers, uses of lands, and their lifestyle, causing damage to habitat for species. Through proper educations and by demanding of the government makes decision to preserve biodiversity, the human population will be able to sustain life on Earth longer. Now, in this era, where a lot has changed, there has a climate change. Here we can imagine and understand why our environment is so important. So as long as we can, as long as the destruction of the nature can be prevented, let us work together to develop and enrich what God has given to us, because ultimately, life gives life. I am Jennifer Susas. My collage is entitled The Tree of Life with the theme, A Leaf for Billions of People in the World. A leaf can provide an oxygen and fresh air. This collage showing how biodiversity is essential and relevant for us. Look all around you. Everything what you see in your surrounding has a big contribution in your life every day. Ocean, forest, plant, trees, animals, whatever it is. This comes from our nature. This comes from our environment. They are the reason why we're still alive. They are the reason why in this world we can still survive. Yes, the destruction of environment is unavoidable, but we can prevent it. Let's all plant trees. Encourage everyone to clean surroundings, because we human beings has the responsible and the caretaker of our environment. Let us nurture our nature.
Good day everyone, I am Mideline Insulapas and this is my collage entitled Preserve Life with the theme Preserve Biodiversity and Save Lives.
Biodiversity is very essential for the existence of the ecological balance and its entire species. It is very important that it must be preserved at all costs with complete effort. Without biodiversity, there would be no life and almost all the species will extinct. Also, it provides so many useful resources necessary for survival. It is our duty to preserve biodiversity to ensure the safe future of the planet and its species. Different plants and animals are dependent on others to live and keep the natural surroundings in a balanced state. For example, human beings are dependent on various plants and animals for their food, shelter, safety, clothes. Similarly, every living species is dependent on some other species. It is therefore important to preserve biodiversity in our planet in order to maintain the ecological balance. Most biodiversity resources are consumed by humans, so it is our primary responsibility to preserve and protect biodiversity to protect the earth. Humans affect biodiversity through their population numbers, land use, and their lifestyle, causing damage to the habitats of species. It is important for people to realize how their actions affect biodiversity and the importance of conserving what is left of the world's biodiversity. Through proper education and by requiring governments to make decisions to preserve biodiversity, the human population will be able to sustain longer life on Earth. As you can see in my collage, we need to preserve biodiversity because it's important to us people and we also benefit from protecting it. So, we need to preserve biodiversity and preserve life.
Good afternoon everyone, I am Cindy E. Suniva. So I come up with this title, We Live Because We Have, and the theme, Biodiversity Support Human Survival.
In my collage, a girl reflects us and it holds the Earth's biodiversity, which reflects how humans are dependent to what biodiversity produces and help us in many ways. Pictures used in overall includes economic development, it supports human and societal needs, ecological life support, contribution to climate stability, and tourism. When we say economic development, it provides raw materials for the industries and play an important role in the production process, as the success of the economy of a country is determined by the amount of natural resources we have. In connection to livelihood and farming, trading were found to be the major activity coming from the result of what our economy and biodiversity produces. Second, it supports human and societal needs. Biodiversity that influence food production as well as for health, the development of medicine to prevent or cure diseases and save lives, and for security, it ensures the availability of the food for the entire population. Third, ecological life support. Biodiversity provides a functioning ecosystem that supplies oxygen, clean air and water, pollination of plant pest control, wastewater treatment, and ecosystem services. Fourth, contribution of climate stability. Human activities such as deforestation, burning of fossil fuels, and so on will make our environment or for worse our planet at risk. But we can address this issue through climate change mitigation and adaptation that can be supported by biodiversity conservation action. And lastly, we have tourism. It generates revenue and helps tons of people through biodiversity that contributes significantly to the attractiveness and quality of destination. Due to this, we continue to live because we have biodiversity who supported various aspects of human life. We live a satisfying and quality of life, which in return, we need to know our limitation and start practicing biodiversity conservation action.
Biodiversity is one of the most valuable and important things we have. Without biodiversity, the entire support system for humans and also the animals' life would collapse. Each species and organisms work together in an ecosystem to maintain balance and support life. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Regine Requez, and the title of my collage is Biodiversity Maintaining the Balance with the theme Protect and Conserve Biodiversity. Biodiversity provides us with ecological life support, since biodiversity provides functioning ecosystems that supply oxygen, clean air and water, also food, medicines, and to prevent extreme climate impacts. It also supports economic activities and recreational pursuits. As the human population keeps increasing and consuming resources, biodiversity is being threatened more than ever before. Overpopulation is associated with negative environmental outcomes, and because of that, the scale has started to lose its balance. Activities of humanity, such as deforestation and urbanization, are directly having an effect on biodiversity. Human domination is the greatest common factor of biodiversity because it takes advantage to its power and consumes all kinds of resources by endangering the life of other species. Humans are also responsible for pollution and other unwanted elements in our environment. Biodiversity conservation is very important for the sustainability of a healthier environment by preserving and protecting species, ecosystem, and natural resources. Without the balance between ecosystem services, and human societies, the balance cannot be maintained, and a decline in ecosystem life and human life is at stake. The issue of biodiversity loss and conservation of biodiversity needs to be passed throughout human societies so that humans can start to make a difference and restore biodiversity because it is so important for our survival. We humans have to do our part conscientiously as caregivers and users of natural resources. Biodiversity is important for people and the survival of mankind.
Biodiversity is important to humans for many reasons. Biodiversity supports human and societal needs, including food, nutrition, security, energy, and development of medicine and fresh water, which together underpin good health. It also supports economic opportunities and leisure activities, which contribute to overall well-being. Biodiversity makes the earth habitable. Biodiverse ecosystems provide nature-based solutions that buffer us from natural disasters such as floods and storms. filter our water, and regenerate our soils. Through biodiversity, living organisms are able to acquire food and other important resources to sustain their lives. The climate and environmental changes are regulated because of biodiversity. The culture is enriched through biodiversity as it involves existence of several groups of species and people in one environment. Natural ecosystems provide the foundation for economic growth, human health, and prosperity. Different plants and animals are dependent on others to live and keep the natural surroundings in a balanced state. Therefore, it is important to preserve biodiversity in our planet in order to maintain the ecological balance. Our fate as a species is deeply connected to the fate of our environment, regardless of where we live, work, or play.
Overall, our collage represents on how biodiversity is an essential factor of the structure and function of all ecosystems and gives the foundation on which the future well-being of human society rests. Biodiversity is all the various types of life you'll find in one area. Biodiversity is everywhere, both on land and in water. Biodiversity supports everything in nature that we all need to survive, such as food, clean water, medicine, and shelter. Moreover, we are able to know the impact on how biodiversity is declining rapidly due to factors such as climate change, invasive species, overexploitation, and pollution. Human activities are often adding to unrecoverable losses in terms of the variety of life on Earth. Biodiversity contributes directly or indirectly to many aspects of human well-being by providing raw materials and contributing to health. Biodiversity supports human and societal needs. That's why people need biodiversity.